obviously you've recently released your first solo album.
Yes.
But you had to make that whilst
Yes.
whilst still being somebody who's working at playing for a living professionally. Everybody has their own ways of balancing those two sides of their life. How did it sort of work out on a practical level for you?
I did end up clearing some space in the diary.
Yeah.
Every now and then, based on deadlines and what I wanted to achieve. Of course, things didn't and don't go to plan.
Yeah.
But I did end up sort of having to sacrifice a little bit of my income to pursue the idea. Even having raised money through crowdfunding to do it. I would not recommend anyone make an album for financial gain.
No, I'll second that.
At least directly, but I would say one of the things I found though was that with an album or something, there is another kind of way that you operate, which is this is a mission and it's going to feel amazing when I've finished it and it's exactly what I want it to be. So you're kind of being like motivated to like work doubly hard to put something like that together. If you don't have that almost obsession drive about it, you might not be doing the right thing. You might not know that that's the case or whatever, but I think for me, it was kind of an unquestionable, okay, you should be doing that now. And then it just kind of happened.
Yeah.
There wasn't a great deal of procrastination at my end anyway.
Sure.
It took a long time for the album to be mixed, and that was the most difficult part because I had to kind of keep putting album head on and off. And the longer it took, the sort of further I drifted away from the person who wrote the music.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like all of a sudden, you know. So, but really, I wasn't super busy when I was in the throes of putting it together, and then I became busier in the period at which the album was being sort of produced out of my hands.
Yeah.
But that was kind of the way that happened. Again, I was sort of pulling long days. But everything kind of takes time with these things, and even writing sleeve notes and sending emails, reviewing mixes, reviewing masters, trying to sort of make yourself viable on the internet. Album art. There's so many like elements to it that it is basically part artistic endeavor and like a flag in the ground, and then part a kind of project management task.
Yeah.
And I think there's a little bit of the, let's call it the sort of Western Protestant work ethic thing that means that if it starts to take a bit long, people sort of think, oh, what's going on? You should get out there, you should get it finished and finish. But I kind of try to remind people that there's never been any awards for getting a project like out on time, and no one cares if your project has come in under budget and all this. Yeah, sure. It's actually just about like, it is what it is, and the end product is what matters. Yeah. There's it's not going to be on your CV that you did your first album and you managed to put 50 quid aside for the champagne afterwards. Sure. Yeah. That's not how it works. Yeah. But it was a good fun process. It's just very frustrating for it to take so long, but it was worth it.
It always takes longer than I think. Even when you kind of price that in, it always seems to take longer than you think. I mean, I found when I did this last one last year, I had it in my head that I would get it out, I guess, March 2019. Well, that was what I was aiming for. And it was like 10 or 11 months after that. And I'd actually streamlined the process well, let's say streamlined it. Maybe I've made it longer because I ended up accidentally mixing it myself, which was not what I was initially. But I ended up. I'd been playing with mixes in order to sort of help my vision of what I wanted it to sound like. Ultimately, just from a sonic point of view. And so, I've been messing with it, and I suddenly realised I'd been spending a long time over this side of it. And I thought, well, do I want to give it to somebody else to mix from scratch? I thought, I think I've gone too deep now, even though I don't know what I'm doing from a technical point of view, i.e. how one technically mixes an album to sound any good. And of course, then I spent much of last summer just watching countless tutorial videos on how to EQ a snare drum or compress a bass drum, or countless hours of my life, which I never expected to spend doing that. But I guess I learned something from that process, and I listen to the results of it now and think, I can hear errors not just musical errors, but sort of sonic errors all over the shop, and I know why they're there. But I guess I learned something from it, which is probably more important.
Absolutely, I think so. I think there's like I guess what's interesting about all this stuff is the process of the first one informs the process of the second one, and that informs the process of the third one, whatever, however many end up doing. I'm kind of writing my second one, and in the writing stage, production is playing a bigger part.
Yeah.
Because I can now maybe more accurately think of, okay, well, this is the input, and I'm much more aware of how the output goes together, and all of the little processes I've jettisoned because stuff I didn't end up using in final mixes. I didn't mix it, but I was like mixing the demos, and it's amazing in those final stages how much stuff you don't need, and my stuff's quite packed with stuff anyway. So that's a stripped down version of what was there.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
But from now I'm kind of like more selective with what's going in.
Yeah.
In the writing stage, and trying to make things kind of work better for the end product, and that is having an effect on my writing. But it's kind of interesting. I don't know whether it's going to be better or worse. It's just that kind of.
I don't think you should think like that, though.
Yeah,
it's just going to be different.
Yeah, exactly, and it is that thing of things just kind of snap into life at like the last minute sometimes.
Yeah,
and you just have to like have the vision in your head about them actually being perfect in the end. It's sometimes, I think, too easy to throw things away before you get to anywhere close to that point. Yeah.
I mean, I've been working on a little isolation project at the moment because I'm at home, and I feel like there's not enough. I think the feeling of uncertainty in the wider world makes you think, well, I might not have many more stabs at doing this, so I'm just going to start writing and recording more stuff. So I've started working on this little. I mean, at the moment it's completely solo. I've limited myself. I've limited myself to instruments and gear that I can use, and I'm ending up writing stuff that is totally different to anything that I've ever done before in my life.
Oh, fantastic!
And it's probably just going to be like an EP kind of length thing, because all the pieces that I've done so far, I've only got 3 pieces which are in various states, and none of them particularly long. So. But it's interesting because it is literally something that it's an approach I've taken. That much of it is improvised. I've not sat down and written much of it down, and I've literally just played stuff into the computer and then manipulated it or copied stuff. There's a lot of editing and moving bits of material around and trying stuff out. apart alongside the elements of writing stuff out, working out parts, basic parts to sort of hang the rest of the composition off. So yeah, I'm kind of enjoying the process of it and enjoying the results so far. But I don't know what the final thing will look like, and it may take a while to properly finish it off. But I'm sort of trying to make as much inroads with it at the moment as I can, because I think we've got a unique scenario at the moment where I don't know about you, but I certainly feel duty bound to kind of make something of it.
Yeah, I felt that really heavily at the beginning.
Yeah.
And then I realised that wasn't a very helpful thing for me to be putting on myself at this point.
Good point. Good point. Yeah.
And then I just sort of decided to just take a week off last week.
Yeah.
Which I was actually meant to be doing. I was like, I'd worked really hard over the last however many months, and I was like, okay, 9th of March, I think about booking a holiday because there was a weird freak week, like totally off, and I thought, okay, book a holiday because you need to recharge your batteries or whatever. Anyway, it comes around, and obviously, that's not possible. And but anyway, I sort of launched myself straight into, okay, I need to practice. I've got to do this. I've got to make sure I'm using this time like in the most productive way.
Yeah.
And I kind of drove myself a bit crazy with that, with everything else that was going on. And I went, okay, just take a week off. It's really sunny outside. Chill out. Yeah. Watch some TV. Play guitar if you want to. And I found myself doing like a bit of exercise, a bit of playing around in Logic for an hour, maybe getting like a little idea down and going away, and some of that stuff was good and usable, but there was no like, I think what I've tried to do in this period is slow down, and if I feel like I need to work really hard for some reason, then I'll do it. But I think at the moment it was like a kind of don't make this any worse than it needs to be.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's crazy that I've sort of started giving myself that kind of pressure when, of course, 2 weeks ago, we were still technically having to homeschool our kids because they were supposed to be. So there was that responsibility on us, which can feel like a bit of a pressure, and you end up my wife in particular gets very uptight about not feeling that she's doing anything to the highest possible level, being she's a musician as well, so so it's the old I'm not being a good mum, I'm not being a good school teacher, I'm not I need to be, I've got all these things I need to do. So she's got her projects that she's been putting on the back burner, which I've had to be involved with as well, because she's doing these videos of the AB syllabus, so I'm like recording it all, and we've given ourselves almost too much to do because we've had this time given to us, and now we're putting all this pressure on ourselves to literally reinvent the wheel virtually.
we need to like schedule I think in a different way than we used to. I think maybe that's just for me.
Yeah.
But there seems to be like a kind of a way that I would schedule for when I was more busy, and now I think there's maybe another way I can approach the idea of scheduling. Maybe it's a more long-term thing, because now there's a bit of noise that goes on. Actually, you should be doing this. Yeah. Actually, you should be doing this. Or like, for the people I know who have managed to put more stuff together and put it out there in this period, I then look at them doing amazing, beautiful things, and my initial reaction is to be angry that I haven't done that.
Yeah.
Like myself.
Yeah.
And now I'm kind of like, I think part of it is having faith that I've managed to get lots of stuff done in the past. And so I can I like the idea that I can turn that on at any point. Yeah. But for now, I'm sort of kind of chilling, writing a bit, practicing a bit, eating really well. Like not the amount that, I mean, you probably done this just as much as I have. But when you're doing all the shows, there's a kind of a show diet that I find myself getting into.
Yeah.
And it's almost like being able to control to a certain extent what I'm eating every day.
Yeah.
It's kind of been nice too. You sort of like start to appreciate when your meals are and phone calls with people and
it's important stuff which I think we, in the pursuit for an idealised lifestyle, we find ourselves neglecting all these things without realising, and then at some point something like this happens and you go, oh, I'm having dinner with my family every single night. I've never had that.
Which for some people is awful. For some people it's great. But again, I'm just sort of saying, for me, I think it was important to allow myself some like real downtime away from this kind of this Protestant work ethic paradigm that I needed to get away from for this period.
Yeah. Okay. Right. Okay. Just to finish off, really, I'd like to just talk about some of the other things that you're involved with outside of the world of simply playing guitar, because you mentioned the podcast. You do your little YouTube videos, your tutorial videos. So you've got a few little things on the go that. So tell me, because you've got a couple of different things that you're involved with. Just go through what you have on the go and what kind of areas they cover and specialise in.
Yeah, so the YouTube project that I was doing was essentially a way to build my audience a little bit before I released my album.
Mm-hmm.
There was and a bit of an experiment to see how much I could grow it with a schedule. And it did work, but I don't think I don't think that lifestyle is for me. It was a lot of work, mad respect to anyone who can do it. And I don't think the stuff I cover and the way I want to cover it lends itself to what the YouTube audiences and algorithms prefer.
Okay.
So I kind of, I haven't abandoned it entirely. But I realised that there's a kind of shelf life to that format, and when I released the album, it kind of took a bit of a backseat.
Yeah.
I guess the other stuff I do is the JTC thing.
Mm-hmm.
I've done like 14 or 15 products with them over the years.
Yeah.
It's been a long-term relationship with those guys. Amazing company, been exceptionally supportive over the years. Really, just couldn't really be better.
Yeah.
So I make stuff with them, and one of the things with that is they talk about like the confronting thing again. You have to film yourself playing.
Yeah.
And sometimes you're filming yourself playing something silly, complicated and shreddy, and you kind of get away with it, and you land everything okay, and that's good. That's a video. That's out there.
Yeah.
And sometimes you've got to play a C major scale very slowly against a click.
Yeah.
And you're filming yourself doing it. And then you listen back to yourself afterwards and go, could have been a bit more in time. The tone was a bit weird there. Yeah. And then all of a sudden you're obsessing about how accurately you're recording a C major scale to a click.
Yeah.
But then it's got to be that way. It's got to be a sort of finished good product. And I have to say, like, the process of making those products has made me, much better at, understanding guitar.
Mm-hmm.
It's been a real learning curve for me. Just the ability to make kind of passive income from that stuff over the years has been absolutely, essential.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's very relevant to the whole backdrop of this discussion, really. It's another income stream. It's a way of making a living as a professional musician, and that's something that you and a few other people do.
I think the thing with me is that there was a necessity to do it because the gigs weren't forthcoming.
Yeah.
When the gigs became forthcoming, it was harder to do it.
Sure.
So I think, I wouldn't kick myself if I'd had like a West End show or something for however many years. And there was no conception of this kind of coming on the horizon, and you just, you're making decent money, and you don't expect to need a second income stream, even though lots of these people actually do. But again, at that point, I don't know. It all depends how you kind of manage yourself. But I guess what I'm trying to say is all of these little aspects to what I do have started because my career started very slowly. Yeah. Like the actual in financially.
Yeah.
So you kind of it was by necessity that these things came to be, and not a design where you go, right, actually I've got this plan, and it's going to be like this.
Yeah.
So I can't take any kind of credit for any foresight or anything there.
No, but it's interesting to see what you've ended up doing within this arena, I suppose. Though, even if some things have come out of the blue or come from necessity or have not been, any kind of planning, they're just sort of they're the little elements that make up the big picture, I suppose.
Well, it's not. The nice thing about it is, in being public facing, I think you make yourself into a bit of a cartoon in some people's minds. Yeah. Especially in the kind of the more notes guitar world, the social media guitar world, all of that stuff, and I'm putting like the JTC thing out. There's a kind of it's kind of anti-pro in some respects.
No, I understand what you're saying. Yeah,
and in a way, I kind of had to forge a path through that world that hopefully didn't take me too far down into the anti-pro, what you might have called pre-COVID, the bedroom guitarist world. Right?
Yeah.
Which is of course, I'm just using that term for the sake of kind of
illustrating the point.
Yeah, it's like a kind of a reflection of a variety of attitudes from a variety of characters. So I feel as though that it was kind of it's been nice to do other things as well that almost legitimize both of the worlds at the same time.
Yeah.
Which has kind of been weird, and I think I definitely felt though that like a cloud lifted from my head when the album finally came out.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Especially with like the prog rock aspect to it, I knew that it was super nerdy and not what people in my professional life day to day would want to listen to. Like it's really like not sort of. It's not the kind of music that it's fashionable to admit to liking in certain circles.
Yeah.
But it's been nice to kind of be able to say, look, this is like a sort of 3D version of my output. Hopefully you don't just think of me as the person with YouTube aspirations or Instagram videos. You know what I mean?
No, yeah.
So it's almost having that picture has allowed me to become less and less of a cartoon as the years went on. Sure. Right? And I guess that's what I was kind of getting at.
It's funny that, you're talking about this sort of cartoon perception of that builds up around people with YouTube and so on and so forth. I just finding it funny when you're talking about yourself in that world, because I've known you since way before then.
Yeah.
So it just... But I completely understand the point you're making.
It's how you land from that world for people who are not used to that world. And I think a lot of I might have really built, I have to sort of acknowledge that I might have really burnt some bridges by portraying any persona at all publicly, right? So in terms of, you know, the sort of professional world, they might have gone, okay, well, no, not him, bit of a shredder. True, right? But like, it's maybe just a bit unfair.
Yeah, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So there is this kind of almost a balancing act that I have been playing for so long that now is kind of, I feel like I don't have to play so much. I don't have as much to prove. Playing in being able or given the opportunity to express some level of versatility and professionalism in the West End, for example, I kind of feel like there's like a badge of trust, if nothing else.
Yeah, sure.
You know, maybe everyone's got their specialisms, right?
Yeah.
But there is another level of this, which is, can you be trusted to do stuff? And when you've just got the YouTube stuff, it is a big question mark.
Yeah.
You know, and if you've just got the West End stuff, it might be a big question mark, but only if your aspirations are, I want to go and do that other stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
But you might not have had enough stuff together to progress.
Yeah.
You know, and obviously you talk to Ant is in a unique situation with regard to how firmly furrowed he's been in both of these scenes.
Yeah.
But then also the jazz scene, which is a different dynamic as well. You know.
Yeah.
It's kind of funny. I sometimes wonder as well whether how open you are as a personality on these things can detract from the art that you make or the perception of the art that you make, because they might think you almost almost showing too much for that sense of you know, the Steve Vai mystery.
Yeah.
thing,
Okay.
right? You know what I mean? Like I don't know how you navigate this world, but I think the idea is it's been nice to have been given opportunities to display a more 3D picture of myself.
Okay. Yeah. No, it's good, and it's been from my point of view. You know, I've enjoyed being able to actually see that because, so having known you for quite a few years and known your abilities as a player for many years, but also knew that you were well studied in academia and composition and had a lot going on in your musical backdrop. It's nice to see all these things converge a little bit.
Yeah, it's nice to have that moment of connection, isn't it, with various things that are I'm not going to lie, they're very, very hard to bring together.
Yes.
So you don't, it's not all of the things, but like say these sort of pockets that just converge. And there's I'm a big fan of the podcaster Sam Harris. He's more than a podcaster, obviously. He's an author and whatever. But he said something really interesting, and this kind of reflects how I now approach my professional life in a way. He said, you know, I'm not the best neuroscientist. I'm not the best podcaster. I'm not the best philosopher. I'm not the best, you know, meditator. All of this. I'm not the best at any of those things. But I am good at all of those things in a way that other people aren't.
Yeah.
And from that you can make yourself useful.
Yeah.
And I think again, like I will never be the best guitarist, I'll never be the best whatever, but I'll have some skills that I can put together to do something. And I think sometimes if you're not a total specialist, and I've always been very jealous of these people, but if you're not a total specialist, is actually your skill set is going to be what you can put together from all the things you do.
Yeah, I think I fall into that camp because I'm not a total specialist at anything, and you know I've survived on being able to adapt the things I can do to fit in with whatever is required, and had to get away with it really.
Yeah. Do you even find that's true with when writing and producing albums and stuff? Like for me, I would love to write like an orchestral piece, but it's really not viable. I'd like to do this.
Yeah.
You know, what I mean is I have written those things, but they're not like a thing I'm going to do going forward, unless there's a realistic opportunity of it, you know, happening.
Sure.
But I guess what I'm trying to say is, there was a part that was going, okay, well, you can write a bit and you can play guitar, where your only choice is you've got a right to play guitar, because you can't bloody sing.
Yeah.
You know, it's almost like, okay, well, you know, the paths have really closed down for me, but actually that's a good thing too.
Yeah.
You know, I just wonder whether that, you know, and obviously that makes it not unique, but kind of, that makes it reflect those aspects of what you do too, doesn't it? Then?
Yeah, I mean, I think in a different kind of way, but I've always been a composer as well, and I went through periods of doing lots of it and then not doing any of it. So, writing music and making making albums of my own material is a very natural thing for me to do, but it's also much more natural for me to put the guitar in the band rather than have it as the feature.
Yeah.
Because my abilities on the instrument are much more zoned in on that being part of a band thing. I'm not the person who takes the limelight for the whole gig or whatever. And I can create much more interesting music if I put myself in the band.
But you and I have perhaps a similar experience here, because obviously something has to be, you know, the top line, if you like. And when I was doing my thing, I was like, well, I can't sustain the level of energy and interest in the top line. I'll have to make sure that it's sharing the limelight with the arrangement or something, you know.
Yeah.
It's funny to manage that. How do you do that kind of work if it's not all about that top thing?
I don't know.
It's weird, isn't it? It's like
to me, I think it's the most natural thing in the world for me is to sort of make the focus the way that I've made it with my work. It's not something that I suppose it was certainly I was sort of conscious about when I made my first one. It was very much more composed and arranged, and that's what I was making the feature: the compositions and the arrangements and the sound of the band. The next one was more of a quartet with some additional overdubs. But again, it was still like the trumpet is going to take the lion's share of the lead voice, and that's just what I've always wanted to do, is be in a band like that, where somebody else is taking the front line flak, but I want to make my contribution in the middle there somewhere, and maybe and make the contribution of the actual composition.
It's quite a nice place to be involved, isn't it? You kind of you get to reach up and down.
Yeah. No, I think it's probably as close to my sort of musical nirvana as I've managed to get, because it's being creative without feeling the pressure of having to deliver something in a performance respect. Which I do to this day still find very difficult. Yeah, and it's all in my head. I know it's all in my head.
I have no interest in actually being able to perform what I put down either on the record. It would have to be much simpler, because I can't play. You know, I wasn't interested in doing something that was realistic. It was It's fantasy music, right? It's all about the product and the experience.
Yeah,
it was more about things being right than anything else. So that's proving to be something of an issue. It also, I should have thought about this, but you know, people need to do these playthrough videos now for everything.
Right.
And often in the way I put my music together, there's minutes where I'm not doing anything. So what do? Just sit like this.
Right.
As the music drifts by. Okay,
yeah.
And we're back in playing another bit. Right?
Yeah.
So it just doesn't. It hasn't been able to go through the marketing kind of rigmarole that I would have liked, but it just doesn't lend itself to that. I did a music video and it was fine, but I don't think it was good enough. So I sort of canned it, you know.
Right.
It wasn't. It's one of those things where I just kind of realised that the way of putting that music together just didn't lend itself to that medium, and
right, okay.
It would have to be something that would exist in a pure form.
Yeah.
But you know, I'm sort of waffling on about something else now. It's a bit weird when you're doing like an interview or something now, or talking to people. You're just like, I haven't spoken to anyone really like much apart from the family, and it's kind of like, right, I need to like sit there, offload all
verbal
the
diary.
Yeah.
Well, I tell you what, I mean, it's been really good for me doing these because obviously, you know, I've got 3 other people in my house with me, so there's always a full-on human interaction going on. But I've had a few sort of Skype calls and FaceTime calls or whatever with people just for the hell of it, you know.
Yeah, same.
You know, you just need to get that interaction with somebody who's gonna talk about your subject for a bit.
So yeah, someone to listen in a different way. I think it's important to sort of feel as though you've been heard sometimes.
Yeah, and I mean, I've enjoyed just hearing somebody else talking, frankly, and getting some thoughts about or getting some perspective from somebody else, because it's very easy to sort of build up an idea in your head about what you think somebody thinks, or what you think the motivations behind somebody's actions are when.
Exactly. And I find that now I'm, you know, relying on text-based versions of that.
Yes.
And because it's kind of been focused on so much, you know, there's sort of panic scrolling over this, you know, disaster scrolling, I think some people call it. But you're not hearing it with the intonation and pacing and intent that people have wanted to put across. And usually when you're having these interactions with people, you're better at passing. But when it's just that, it's a bit like it's sort of amplified.
Yeah. Well, that's the whole social media arguments thing in a nutshell. You know, that the way that the interaction happens over text, all the moderating effect of the one-to-one is just out of the window.
I've done the career suicide thing of just basically totally backing off social media for I think about a month and a half, where I kind of just have no promotion stuff apart from when I feel like I'm obligated to do it.
Yeah.
But it's kind of just been much more scaled back, so I can work out who on earth I am and what I want to do and who I want to put out to the world. And a lot of that happened because the album's now out, and it's like, okay, right, that's out. Chill, work out what you're gonna do next, and enjoy your break.
Enjoy your isolation. I think on that note, Jake, we'll wrap it up.
Yes, for sure.
Yeah, thanks for your time.
My pleasure.
It was a very interesting discussion, and it went off in all sorts of directions that I wasn't really expecting, but that's cool. That's why I did it. I want to see what people have got to say.
Yeah, it's fun.
So hopefully I've managed to get it recorded on various media formats. So I'm being totally belt and braces about this, just for fear of doing an interview and then having realised nothing's been recorded in any way, shape or form. So my first one I did was with John Gregson with his rig at Prince of Egypt, and I was like really panicking that everything was going to get recorded, but it all worked. So okay, mate, ring off, and I will see you soon. Take care.
It's just getting sunny, so I might go outside. Nice one. Cheers, Tim. Take it easy, man. Bye.